Today, we're going to talk about one of the new features that just came out, specifically for Stable Diffusion and SDXL models. Two new methods of applying IP adapters, specifically the style strong and the style precise modes. What we're going to do today is we're going to really take a deep dive into the new features just to show how they work and how they compare to some of the previous methods that were used. Recently, Matteo, who had contributed this functionality into the Comfy ecosystem as one of the top nodes that you would download for Comfy as his IP adapter nodes, helped contribute that to Invoke and made our IP adapters that much better. A award-winning photography. More than that. We'll do psychedelic Americana, a man wearing a leather jacket, long hair, and sunglasses. And then we'll throw in an F20 just to give it some like photography stuff. For the negative prompt, we'll keep it simple, blurry, out of focus, no quality, bad, etc. Sketch, JPEG, crunchy. Let's just see what we get. We're going to do a fixed seed so we can actually do some A/B testing here. We're going to see what we get with just this. Look at that. Great. Look at that handlebar. It's the strangest mustache I've ever seen. It's kind of like doesn't go down all the way down with those handlebars. It kind of just comes up and connects to the top. We dig it. Here, take that raster layer and kind of pop that out. And then what we're going to do is I've got a couple of images here in my assets. I've got this kind of like stylistic painterly lightning thing. It's kind of cool. I've got this like weird faded rainbow thing. And then I've got this kind of like Disney Southwestern lady that we can use. And really what I want to do is show that process of using IP adapter, how the different modes affect the generation process, especially when you've got something that's like as contrasting as like a Disney Southwestern princess. First, bring in this kind of like painterly stylistic thing as a global reference image. Let's take a look at what happens when I leave it at style and composition of a weight of 1, okay? Just because I think it's good to always remind ourselves what happens when we use like IP adapter all the way up to 11. What ends up happening is it kind of overrides the text prompt in the image, right? We get something that is heavily inspired by the image, so much so that we get nothing else, right? And this is where you can use this and bring it down. You can bring down the weight if you really do want to merge these concepts, but very often what you're looking to do is bring some element of this in, but not all of it. We don't want everything. And so you'll notice now that in the new version we have some additional methods. We have the style and composition, which was the old method or the basic method that uses everything. We have style simple, which is our previous style only. Style strong, which is new. We'll talk a little bit about what it does in a second. And style precise, which is also new. And then composition only, which just looks at the composition. So what style strong does is it imbues the majority of the image in, I would say, a slightly lessened compositional influence. So it's kind of like, without overriding the fact that we want a person in this, it'll kind of take that one element out and won't block the subject, but it is going to have a lot of compositional influence, like environment and setting and scenes and stuff like that. Style precise is actually very much countering the effect of the composition. So rather than just isolating for style, it actually imbues a little bit of a negative influence on the composition so that we're really pulling out just the style and kind of the aesthetic. So let's take a look at what happens when we do style simple at 1. My goodness, style simple at 1. This guy's becoming like a cyber guy. This guy looks cool. His mustache and beard are a lot thicker, but he's got like this kind of lightning coming up through his jacket that's inspired by the inspiration image. There's like some cool stuff there. Style strong again is going to add a lot more of the original image in, but we also get our kind of cool psychedelic Americana guy over here. So in contrast to style and composition, which had everything in it and kind of like overrode the image, our style strong is still allowing some of that subject to come in. But again, what we're trying to do is isolate the specific style. And so this is the new style precise method. This is where we're going to get a little bit more of just the kind of visual aesthetics and style from this image and not as much of the like scenery. All right, so we've got this guy. He still has this kind of lightning thing going on. Generally feels like a lot more like a photograph, high quality aesthetic. Part of what's coming through on the style strong is this kind of like painterly aesthetic almost, this kind of like flat, almost old tabletop RPG. When we use style simple, I would say that this is actually like relatively decent. But we do get a little bit more of the kind of like foreboding clouds in the background. The way that I would describe how these are working together is in a lot of ways, it's allowing for much more of the kind of general color palette and aesthetic to come out without, influencing the image too much. And just for final comparison, we'll look at composition only, which is going to be that last one. This is so much fun to play with. You can get some really interesting compositions out of it. There's a lot you can do. People are asking about some important questions. One, is that my dad? No, my dad doesn't have hair like this. Second question that people are asking, what version is this of the community edition? This is going to be 5.12, which just came out either yesterday or the day before. For anyone on the hosted product, this is live right now. You can use it. If you have not updated the community edition, you do need to update that by downloading a new installer and using the new installer as well. Now, this is what happened when we use composition only. As we can see, it pulls out the kind of like the mountains in the background, but still keeps our cool looking dude there in the middle, right? Okay. So now let's take a look at what happens when we use a different styled image. So I'm going to take out this kind of like flat rainbowy image, and we're going to go through the entire process again. We're going to generate, we're going to kind of go through each one and see what it does. So style and composition, I anticipate again overriding the majority of our prompt. So when we have style and composition, we're getting all of what's inside of this image and pretty much none of our prompt. We'll go down and do style simple. Style simple brings it out, also makes it a little faded. A little bit of that's coming through. To style strong, I anticipate this is going to be weird. That is weird. That is very weird, but also fun. I bet there's some people out there. I see some of our like our popular artists out there who are probably inspired by this. Style precise brings in a little bit less of that like faded aesthetic, leaves our like guy more prominent in the center, and then the background is kind of this like sheet almost. Let's say that we wanted to keep a lot of what's inside of this image, but we wanted to kind of just like inject a little bit of color in. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this at the initial first like 25% steps, right? So I'm bringing the end step down. And what this is going to do is it's going to make the early formation of the image like inject 100% of this style, but then it's going to go hands off and it's not going to inject the style anymore. And what that can do is you can start to kind of influence lighting and influence more subtle coloring changes without having this applied across the entire denoising process, which allows the prompt to kind of like in those last remaining 50% of steps where it's doing detailing, really bring out just like the full prompt. And so we're going to try this at the first 25% full weight. So compared to when we had the full 100%, this definitely has a lot more of the kind of like original image in it. This guy's got like it's almost like oversaturated a little bit, which actually the picture that we're using now helped with. But you can see that we've injected a lot of color in and a lot of the like aesthetic without completely overriding the style. If we bring this up to 50% and have it kind of continue more of that process, it'll get halfway and then switch back. And so we're kind of like going on a spectrum from no influence to very strongly influencing and kind of evaluating where in that process this is. What happens if we have two IP adapters that are influencing the style and we kind of figure out different ways of interacting those together? So I'm going to have style precise for both of them. And I'm gonna get the early like 25%, maybe 30%. So early on in the formation of the image, it's gonna have this dark, gritty, lightning feel. And then I'm gonna like pepper in some of this rainbow color right after that. So it's gonna start with black, it's gonna start with dark, and then it's gonna inject like a quick hit of some of this like rainbow stuff. And we'll see what we get. Like I have no idea where this is gonna go, but we're gonna start playing around with this and see what the aesthetic looks like. Okay, cool. So what it did is it gave us some good shadows early on. You're kind of injecting some of the values in, some of those early darks, and then it's applying this like rainbow color on top. I'm gonna mix this up. Instead of rainbow, I'm gonna inject this kind of like bright, happy image with these dark colors and just see what happens when we have that. Let's make the darkness end a little bit before we start injecting the bright, happy colors. Cool. It kind of gave it this like yellow in the background and injected some flowers here. I have noticed that specifically with these flowers, if you play with this, even if you only have style on at a strength of one, you're going to get a lot of those flowers. Like the flowers just kind of like come through. Let's see what happens if we start with bright and then inject darkness. Inject the darkness. I think what we'll see is probably a generally brighter image. Oh, that kind of came in still and injected a lot of darkness in. Got this kind of like yellow background area. Do this a little bit later in the image, and let's do it for a little bit longer. I would definitely buy this jacket. This jacket's dope. This one's gonna be a good one to test with. So this one has a very flat color. Okay, a lot of different bright colors. We're to do this kind of like flat illustrative color. What it's going to do is it's actually going to apply that flat color to the image, right? Which is in this case is super fun because it made his eyes like all weird and psychedelic and trippy. But you can see that it kind of like injected that color all the way to the end, right? And it made it flat and it took that like very literally of take the style from this. And that's something that you kind of have to understand when you're working with IP adapter is there isn't a method that says pull just the color or pull just the like specific medium, right? Color and medium and structure and composition sometimes like really are tied together. And so it's really hard for you to necessarily isolate that sometimes. In this case, if we just want the color, what I'm going to do is let's see what happens when we apply this to the early parts of the image and then let it go through. So early parts of the image, we got a lot of the color. It injected that in. We still got a little bit of the illustrative style just because it's like so potent. So let's take that down a little bit and make the style weight at 0.6 and see if we can just like jam a little bit of that color in, but still get like photorealistic output. Somebody said, so if you wanted the flatness, but with the original colors, would you add it at the end? Oh, that's a great question. I don't know. Let's try it. Let's see what happens when we let those colors bake, but then change the style at the end. So we're letting it generate the first half, and then we're kind of like injecting that towards the tail end. So you can see it starts to flatten it, but it's already developed enough depth there that you're kind of not really getting that same exact color. If I were to really want to do that type of color control with a style transfer, I'd probably use a control layer. That's where I would do that so that the color is being controlled by the control layer using something like a tile control net, the lower weight, and the style is being injected on top of that. So this is kind of what happens when you flatten things towards the end, but when it's already generated a little bit of like the image. We bring that earlier, we'll get more color and more flatness, but it will be less like the original image. Let's see what happens when we mix these two together, this kind of like original dark image with color here. Let's do the color first half, and then we'll add some darkness right in the middle. By mixing these styles together, we're kind of getting that flattened look at the beginning. We're injecting a lot of darkness and kind of the electric vibes right there. If I bring this style down, I imagine we'll get more photorealism, but it'll also be a little bit less colorful. Okay. Okay. See what I did there? Look at that. That's pretty cool, huh? So this is what somebody gave. This is like this crocheted dog thing. We're going to apply that as a regional reference image. And we're going to do style precise of 1. And we're going to regionally inject that IP adapter where this guy would go. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm using the seed, the fixed seed, because I know exactly where he's going to end up, like where the image is biased towards. What I'm doing is I'm just injecting the style right there, right? So I'm going to, well, let's see what happens when I generate a new image before I do the image to image piece. Let's just see what happens when we inject this from in an entirely new context. He gets he gets kind of like this crocheted shirt, and then some of the things on his head and hair get influenced by this. Let's do let's do this. I'm going to accept this just so that I can erase around the head. So what I want to do is I want to see if we can kind of just inject on that jacket. I'm going to delete this and we're going to regenerate once again. Beautiful. Beautiful, right? Now we've got a jacket that's crocheted. It's got this nice leather thing and these patches. Super cool, right? Okay. Let's see what happens when we do this. I'm going to copy the regional guidance to our InPaint mask. And we're just going to see what happens when we transform the existing or original image and do this kind of second pass with the style injection. So we'll notice that one thing I need to do when you're doing image to image or in painting, you have to change the seed. So that's something that you have to do. So I'm going to turn this back to random so that we're allowing it to kind of like inject stuff in during image to image. But I anticipate that we'll see a lot more of that leather kind of come through. And yeah, we do. So we see the existing leather. The more we keep this at a lower denoising strength, the more it's going to blend back to that original leather. It's just going to kind of inject maybe on the patches and some areas that kind of crocheted look. And so we can see that there is definitely a use case here for image to image and injection of the style. These are great. Matteo is in the audience. The person who brought this feature to you is in the audience watching today. So say thank you to Matteo for contributing this. I'm going to inject this style globally. Strong. Actually, no, I'll do precise. And we'll do that early on. Okay. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That black and white has that strength 1. Or that was actually interesting. Oh, this was just the random seed. This is with our original seed. Fantastic. Let me just say, I don't. Maybe this we should stop. I'm typically one of those people that when you've reached perfection, you just stop. Right? You stop messing with it. I don't know if we can get better than that. Mateo's given some hot tips. He said with style precise, you can also go higher. So if you want to inject at 1.6, you can. This style is insane, incredibly strong style. So we've got this thing here and this thing here. And I'm going to inject this as a regional reference image. We're going to do style precise and we're going to blend that one in right in the middle there. So we'll let it get like that early dark in, but then we're going to kind of make the main part of the image. Okay, so this is what happens when we inject that yellow in. We get a lot of that. Let's bring that weight down a little bit. So we get the values from that heavy black and white. We layer on a little bit of color there in the middle, and then we let it finish that image up. And isn't that just like so cool to be able to control the color and the aesthetic with a high degree of precision? It is so awesome. Thing here, we're going to add in this other image that Matteo shared of this kind of like very abstract, impressionistic piece. So we're going to do this as a regional reference image, and we are going to do strong style, and we'll do this halfway through, like for the first half, and we're going to just kind of like do that everywhere around the sides. It did overlap with the guy a little bit, but it kind of looks cool, right? Like what this ended up doing though is it kind of like made the whole image a little illustrative, because what the AI is trying to do is it's trying to make a single image that is coherent, right? Like that's its job, is to make an image that looks like it's a single image. Styles on the outside, and we'll do a negative prompt of illustration, painting. These are negative prompts. So we're negative prompting for illustration and painting. We're injecting the styles in on the outside, and we're going to see what we get. We get a little Starry Night over here. So much fun. Come on. Let's turn this up to 0.75. Super cool. Super cool. Somebody said this is the coolest of all the cools, if that makes sense. And it does. It does make sense. Let's do one more thing. Let's do one more thing while we are here. I'm going to take this image. I'm going to get rid of our regional guidance. So I've just got this. Got rid of our global reference image. I'm going to do a control. I'm going to convert this to a control layer. And then I'll show you the fun final step here of paint by image, which is we're going to take this and we're going to very specifically paint the style where we want it to go. But we know how the structure is going to be laid out. Regional reference image. Somebody said, use these powers for good, not evil, please, always. So we're going to regionally guide just this one part here where the dude is in this black and white style. And we're going to do that for the early half at a 0.6. And then we're going to take, I don't know, this flat color. No, we'll do this like cool background that we started with. We'll do that regional reference image, style strong, and we'll have it apply that for the first, let's say 30. But what this is going to do is we know exactly how this is going to be shaped and structured, because we've got a control layer in. We're injecting the IP adapter in the regions that we want to control that with. And then we're getting something out of that, which is this, apparently. Let's turn down the strength of this. Actually, maybe what I'll do is I'll turn this to style precise, because I think maybe it's getting a little bit too strong of an influence on the outside. Come on. Super cool. And then, I'll say there's a little bit of this overlap here where I got a little bit lazy right here, and it made his hair white. So we're going to take that out. Typically, if you're using regional IP adapter, you want to have a control layer in, or a fixed seed that you're kind of layering the style on top of, so you know exactly where stuff is. Otherwise, the regional IP adapter is going to have like maybe a chance, but not a great chance doing what it needs to. I mean, it'll still work, but you might get like structural stuff that's a little bit weird. I'm going to come in and fix this guy's hair real quick. I'm going to paint on that raster layer, and then do some in painting and let it reimagine that back to his proper hair color, like everything else. And we'll just do one more generation of the head with a random seed. Call it a day. Call it a day. Somebody said it's the missing Led Zeppelin album from your uncle's collection. Yeah, maybe my great uncle. I'm just playing with you. I know. But we had a ton of fun today. We learned a lot about IP adapter. We played around a lot with IP adapter. We hung out with this man wearing a leather jacket all day. And I think we got some good kind of understanding of this mechanism.